Morning, I hope you're all well. It's my Nissan Leaf's 4-year, 50,000 mile anniversary, and I wanted to have a look at what savings, if any, I've made over the last 4 years. So grab yourself a coffee, make yourself comfortable, and let's look at what it actually costs to run an electric car. So some brief history for you before we get into it. I bought my car 4 years ago. I bought it brand new from a Nissan dealer. At the time I bought it on a PCP. That finished about 6 months ago, and at that point I decided to buy the car outright. It cost me £10,000, and I've been running it ever since. And over the course of those 4 years, the car has caused me no problems whatsoever. So let me talk you through what it's cost me and where all these figures come from. So let's start off with home charging. Now, my charger, I'm fortunate enough that I've got a separate meter on it that tells me exactly how many kilowatt hours go into it. So it's added up over the 4 years. My home electricity rate averages about 13p per kilowatt hour. It's been a little bit more expensive sometimes, a little bit less other times. And as with all these figures, I'm going to round them all up so it makes it a really fair comparison. I don't want to take things away and make you think that I've tried to hide anything anywhere. I would rather overemphasize everything than try and reduce it. So home charging over the 4 years, 50,000 miles, has cost me £1,820. Obviously that's not the full story. I do charge while I'm out and about. Now, I'm not a heavy user of rapid chargers and public chargers, but I do use them regularly. There's two that I use more than any others. Now the first is Ecotricity's Electric Highway, and to find a figure for that, what I've done is I've looked at last year's figure. Obviously all the receipts I keep, they get emailed to you. Last year I used it more than any other year. So I've added the 12 months up and I've times that by 4. So again, it's more than I've actually spent on public charging with the Electric Highway, but I think that will give us a really good fair figure. The other type of public charging I do regularly is through Polar. Polar, I need the subscription, that's £7.85 a month. So I've had that for 2 years, so I have included it for 2 years. And I've also included the 2 years worth of charging that I've done. So a total figure for public charging is £367. Obviously we can assume within that there was some free charges I've got at various points, and I have done a couple of slower rate charges where they have charged me for that, but to be honest, it's been pennies. The addition that I've put on top of the Electric Highway more than covers that. So £367 I think is a really fair figure. Let's look at some of the sundries then that I've had to spend on the car. Windscreen wipers, I've replaced the driver's side one and the rear one, total cost of £14. Tyres, now this is a significant cost. I've had 6 replaced in total. Of the 6, they worked out on average £100 each. So tyres, that gives us a total of £600. And then servicing. Servicing's changed over the years. I've always gone to Nissan, being a main dealer, to service it. When I first bought it, a minor service was £99, a major service was £150. They then upped all their prices. A minor one became £150, a major £200. But in total, over the 4 years, including the service I'm going to have done in a couple of weeks' time, I haven't had it done yet, but that will be the 4th one, it's cost me £600 to have it serviced. So that gives us a total of £3,402 to charge, run, look after, care for my Nissan Leaf 24 kilowatt hour for 50,000 miles over 4 years. That seems quite a reasonable figure to me. It doesn't seem too much at all, but we need to put that into context somehow, don't we? We need to compare it with something else that's going to give us an idea whether that is a good saving or not. Now, for me, the only thing I've got to compare it to is my petrol car. I've got quite an old 2-litre petrol Mazda 6. We've run it for years. It owes us nothing. It's a cracking little car. It just keeps going and going. So for that car, what I've done is I've worked out what it costs me in fuel for 50,000 miles. That car will do about 400 miles to every tank of fuel. Sometimes it's a bit less, but let's call it 400 miles to round the figure up. 50,000 miles then, divided by 400, gives us a figure of 125 times that I have to fill that car up in order to cover that 50,000 miles. So if each tank of petrol works out, it's generally between £70 and £80. Quite often it's closer to £80, but let's round it down. Let's call it £70 for the interest of fairness. So 125 fill-ups at £70 each gives us a total of £8,750. That's incredible. Sometimes until you sit down and work it out, you don't actually realise how much money you are pumping into your petrol tank. And even though I haven't got a loan on that car, I don't owe it anything, that's a hell of a lot of money. Nearly £9,000 for 50,000 miles. So what does that save us? Well, you'll come to no surprise to you to know that that has saved us £5,348. So 50,000 miles, 4 years, nearly £5,500. Now, the eagle-eyed viewers of you out there, you will have noticed that all I've done for the Mazda is put the fuel costs in. You make the thing move. I haven't included servicing, MOTs, all the sundries. There's none of that. And I can tell you, the reason I haven't done it is, to be honest, it's an older car. So of course it's going to cost me a bit more. But I've had new springs put on it, new tyres, all sorts of bits and pieces. My average cost, I've had a look over the last 4 years, my average cost of servicing is £250 a year. So there's another £1,000 you can put straight on there for servicing. Then add the tyres, add the MOTs. All right, I've had 2 MOTs done on the Leaf, or I will have next month. If you're not in the UK, the MOT test is something that after a car is 3 years old, you have to have it done every year to make sure it's roadworthy. And it costs you just under £50 a time. So without adding all that on, I'm still making a sizable saving. And for, again, viewers that aren't in the UK, that is the equivalent of $6,790 or €6,090. So that gives you an idea in your currencies what it's costing or what it's saving me. Now, of course, we could talk about depreciation, but when I've done that before, people have always said, yeah, but what about this car against this car? And it becomes very complicated. You could what if all day long. All I'd say is if you're comparing an electric car with a fuel car, an ICE car, do the comparison yourself. Well, look, I bought my Leaf earlier on this year for £10,000. In 4 years' time, fuel alone will have paid for half of it. In 8 years, it's more than paid for it. And if you add all the other stuff on top of it, it's a lot less than that. So you can see how quickly these cars can pay for themselves. And that's notwithstanding the fact that my Leaf is 10 years younger than my Mazda. It's a much nicer drive, much more equipment in there. It's a much nicer car all round. Of course, there is a final chapter to this story. And I always get in the comments, and I'll get them in this one, yeah, but what about your battery? In 5 years, your battery is useless. You've got to get rid of it. All your savings that you've made, you're going to have to spend on putting a new battery in your car. Well, just as well I got LeafSpy, isn't it? Because I've just plugged it in and I've had a look. My battery, 4 years use, 50,000 miles. I've done nothing, as I've said many times, to look after that battery. I've never done the 20 to 80% rule. In fact, I came home with 93% in it just a minute ago. I've plugged it in. It always gets charged to 100%. It gets run down whenever it wants. I do absolutely nothing to look after that battery. It is showing a state of health of 91%. So 4 years, 50,000 miles, I've lost 9% of my battery. I've still got all 12 bars on the display. Don't worry about your battery. It lasts, it works. Plugging in today, I had no concerns. I was confident that was still going to be over 90%. So please don't worry about batteries and don't worry about factoring those into your costs. Certainly, if you're in a climate like this in the UK, they just work. They work really, really well. So nothing to worry about there. Finally, you may well have seen this mug at the start with my little symbol on it. That's something new. What I want to do is get some of these made up for some of my patrons, because without patron support, a lot of what I do, a lot of the times I go out and about, a lot of the equipment that I use to get all those different camera shots, it's all thanks to people donating through Patreon. So thank you ever so much. I'm going to put these into the $10 tier. If you donate $10 or more a month, then you will get one of these mugs for free coming to you in the post. And a few others, you might find these landing in your doorstep soon as well. So thank you again. Honestly, without you, I couldn't do all these videos. And that's it for today. Hopefully that's given you a good insight. If it has, remember to like and share. If you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel. The Patreon link's going to come up, that little P. Click on it. That will take you there if you want to get yourself one of these mugs. Or I don't care, even if it's just $1, honestly, every little bit helps. Every bit goes straight back into the channel. I don't keep any of it for myself just because this is a great hobby. I love doing it. For now, thanks for watching. You take care and I'll see you soon. All the best.